A deadly and highly infectious disease is surfacing in China, but it's not the pandemic you're thinking of. Among the confirmed patients, one has died. The U.S. is offering up to $5 million for information on a Chinese fentanyl trafficker, but Beijing is defending the man. A fleet of U.S. and U.K. aircraft carriers are sailing near China, carrying hundreds of long-range missiles. Together, they make up one of the world's most powerful fleets. A think tank poll hints at Americans' view on Taiwan. Data shows over half would support the government in sending troops to defend the island. And the Chinese Communist regime is driving private companies to make big donations in the name of creating prosperity for all. But the money may not be helping who it should. Welcome to China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. A deadly and highly infectious disease has surfaced in at least 3 Chinese provinces. It's called anthrax, and this month marks China's first human death case linked to the disease in 10 years. That's based on official figures. The death struck in the country's Shandong province. Nearly 5,000 others there were found to have had contact with confirmed patients or related animals. They've since been put under isolation and are receiving preventive medical treatment. A weekly report from Shandong CDC revealed that 2 confirmed anthrax cases were reported to the agency in mid-August. The first patient, a 14-year-old student, died at the beginning of the month. He had developed symptoms like fever, fatigue, and convulsions. The CDC's weekly report was released August 27th, over 20 days after the first patient's death. The second patient was linked to the first, having visited the first patient's home to help slaughter cattle. Doctors later diagnosed him with cutaneous anthrax. That means he caught the infection through skin contact with the bacterium. Anthrax is often found in cattle and sheep. Human infection can happen after contact with sick animals or contaminated products. The most dangerous form of the infection is pulmonary anthrax, caused by inhaling droplets or dust containing the bacterium. It has a fatality rate of over 80%. Those infected develop flu-like symptoms like a sore throat, mild fever, and fatigue. That worsens into shortness of breath and may cause death. Shandong isn't the only part of China facing the problem. On August 9th, city authorities in Beijing also reported an anthrax case. The patient came from the neighboring Hebei province and had a history of contact with local cattle and sheep. He had traveled to Beijing for medical treatment days after symptoms developed. Local media outlets have not published follow-up reports on the patient's situation after treatment. Elsewhere in central China's Shanxi province, 9 people developed symptoms, including blisters, ulcers, and dark spots. 8 of them were later diagnosed with anthrax. Local officials say the origin of the bacterium hasn't been found yet. The U.S. is offering a reward for information on a Chinese fentanyl trafficker, while Beijing defends him. The State Department said Monday it would give up to $5 million for information leading to the man's location, his arrest, or conviction. The Chinese trafficker named Zhang Jian is a key leader of a transnational criminal organization. It's known for manufacturing fentanyl and its analogs from at least 4 known labs in China. The organization also advertised illicit drugs on the internet to customers in the U.S. and Canada. It has allegedly sent thousands of orders of fentanyl products around the world since it started in 2013. Fentanyl is 50 times more powerful than heroin. If convicted, Zhang would face life imprisonment and about $13 million in fines. Beijing banned fentanyl and its analogs in 2019. Yet on Tuesday, Beijing defended Zhang, saying he hasn't violated any Chinese law. They're calling on the U.S. to cancel its bounty. According to a U.S. federal commission, most fentanyl products coming into the U.S. still originate in China. Next, we look to the American public stance on U.S.-Taiwan relations. A think tank poll shows that over half of those surveyed would support the U.S. sending its troops to defend Taiwan if China tried to invade it. That number is important because it's the highest level of support recorded since the think tank started asking that question in the 80s. The Chinese Communist Party claims Taiwan is part of mainland China. That's despite Taiwan having its own government, military, and constitution. The U.S. doesn't have a formal diplomatic relationship with Taiwan, but U.S. law expresses an implicit commitment to defend Taiwan if Beijing invades, and America has already sold billions of dollars of arms to Taiwan. That said, Washington never made an explicit commitment to defend Taiwan against China. Politicians call it strategic ambiguity. But lately, Beijing has been flexing its muscles at Taiwan more. That includes conducting drills and sending fighter jets into Taiwan's airspace. And there's ongoing debate about whether it's time now for the U.S. to make its stance clear. A fleet of U.S. and U.K. aircraft carriers are sailing near China. It's one of the world's most powerful fleets, carrying hundreds of long-range missiles. It boasts more firepower than most countries reserve in their entire naval force. NTD's Don Ma has more.
The U.S. and the U.K. have assembled one of the world's most powerful naval formations near China, in the waters surrounding Okinawa, Japan. It's among the most formidable group of ships to sail together in years, and it's not a coincidence that it appeared near China's coast. Recently, Beijing has been increasing its military assertiveness in the region, mainly towards Taiwan. The joint US-UK move indicates a potential warning to China's Communist Party, or CCP, that upsetting the status quo in the region could be matched with a powerful response.
For China, this is a warning sign. It's undeniable that the U.S. military deployment and military strength in the Indo-Pacific region cannot be underestimated.
The naval formation is composed of 3 aircraft carriers. That's the USS America, the HMS Queen Elizabeth, and the nuclear-powered USS Carl Vinson. A former Chinese Communist Party military personnel tells NTD that in a military confrontation, China is no match for America's power.
Why does the United States place such a large force on the Western Pacific and at the doorstep of the CCP? I think it is a strategic deterrence. It's to tell the CCP to settle down. In an actual confrontation, this force is terrifying and very powerful. I think the CCP couldn't defend against it.
The Naval Assembly is part of the 2 countries' maritime deployment operations. Those operations also include training exercises. And on each carrier are dozens of advanced fighter jets. In total, they carry nearly 80 combined aircrafts. These carriers are accompanied by Dutch and British support escorts. These carriers are also sporting several submarines and hundreds of long-range missiles. Together, these carriers and escorts possess more firepower than most countries have in their entire naval fleets. By comparison, China currently deploys just 2 aircraft carriers. Don Ma, NTD News.
The U.S. recently sent 3 Chinese students back to China. Officials at a Chinese press conference said on Monday the students were reportedly suspected of having links to the Chinese military, after U.S. officials found photos in their phones that showed them in military training. And so they were deported back to China after interrogation at the Houston airport. China says it strongly opposes the U.S.'s decision. The U.S. says it's concerned about risks to national security after a Chinese firm agreed to acquire a semiconductor chip manufacturer. It means U.S. authorities may not give the acquisition clearance and adds to the calls not to rely on China in critical industries. Magnachip is a company that produces display and power chips and has facilities in South Korea. In March, Chinese private equity firm Wise Road Capital agreed to acquire Magnachip in a deal valued at $1.4 billion. A committee under the Treasury Department ordered the deal to be put on hold in June, before the Treasury Department's latest statement. Magnachip was looking at its next steps, but doesn't guarantee it can meet requirements that would allow the sale to go through. It's another blow to Chinese companies trying to invest abroad in critical tech industries. A global shortage of chips has led to calls for the United States to rely less on China. New policy from Chinese leader Xi Jinping is drawing private companies to make donations in the name of creating prosperity for all. Critics call it a trick out of Beijing's playbook and voice concerns about how it may affect the country's economy.
Some of China's wealthiest companies are donating much of their profits, far more than last year, under pressure from Beijing. Chinese Communist Party leader Xi Jinping is advocating for a new policy. Authorities call it the third allocation. It aims to achieve prosperity for the masses via philanthropy. Not long after Beijing announced the strategy, many profitable companies took action and started making donations. But instead of being motivated to aid the common good, their quick reactions are more likely an attempt to minimize the risk of scrutiny from authorities.
It seems voluntary, but in fact the authorities force people to donate. China's economy is not good due to disasters, the pandemic, etc. The Chinese Communist Party is in urgent need of money to subsidize the poor, but the regime doesn't want to pay. That's why they fix their eyes on the private companies.
According to Bloomberg data, 7 Chinese billionaires have donated record-breaking sums of $5 billion, 20% more than all recorded donations in 2020. Many in the tech industry have also promised to donate, planning to fund charities in areas like social responsibility and agriculture.
The first two problems to solve for common prosperity are expensive medical care and education. These are the indexes. Their common prosperity took away the money from private sectors, even eliminated them. But the money will never benefit the people, only goes to capitalists with power, those that we call China's red families.
Chen says the policy isn't sustainable. It may cause the country's economy even to collapse. But Chinese authorities are pushing a different picture. They describe this strategy not as stealing from the rich to help the poor, but as a joint effort to work hard together.
This has happened many times. They have this or that excuse to make private companies suffer great losses. That severely jeopardizes their motivation.
Critics say if China's private businesses shall fall, people will lose their jobs, meaning the rich will become the poor and the poor will get poorer.
One of China's biggest stars has been erased from Chinese video platforms, making her the latest public figure to be targeted by Beijing. The move is part of the regime's clampdown on celebrity culture. A Chinese filmmaker tells NTD what's going on behind the scenes.
No matter how popular or influential you are in China, as long as the CCP wants, it can simply pinch you to death.
This is what filmmaker Shi Yuge recalls after spending years in China's entertainment industry. Now he's telling NTD what's behind the scenes of China's latest celebrity crackdown. Recently, Beijing has taken action against online fan culture and has punished celebrities for tax evasion and other offenses. One of China's most popular stars, Vicky Zhao Wei, appeared to be the latest target of an internet takedown. All her films and TV series have been removed from Chinese video streaming platforms. Other websites stripped her name from films that credit her as a director or producer. Popular Chinese social media platform Weibo removed Zhao's fan page, and her fellow celebrities all appear to be taking down their social media posts relating to Zhao.
The CCP could wipe you off the earth. Even if anyone remembers your name, no one dares to mention you. That's a form of state terrorism.
Zhao's sudden cancellation was reportedly prompted by an order from Beijing, but was done seemingly without reason. Other well-known Chinese celebrities are facing cancellation too. For one, Taiwanese actress Ruby Lin Xinru, her film and TV studio has shut down. As for others, actress Zheng Shuang fined $46 million for a tax scandal, and singer Huo Jun socially exiled following accusations of cheating spread by his ex-girlfriend. While Canadian Chinese singer Chris Wu and TV actor Qian Feng were both accused of rape and sexual assault, Shi Yuge says the celebrities could have been targeted for a number of reasons. First,
Chinese entertainment is far more complicated than anyone could imagine.
Shi says that's because many film and TV studios in China are backed by members of the regime's leadership or other billionaire business people. For them, these studios can be used for money laundering. Shi believes this is especially common for members of the Chinese Communist Party.
On the surface, the CCP is clamping down on celebrities, but it's actually also clamping down on the political forces behind them.
Over the weekend, a prominent Chinese blogger wrote a post that's now widely circulated across state media. It calls Beijing's latest crackdown a sign that profound political changes are underway in the country.
I really feel another cultural revolution has begun. The people who are being suppressed are all famous people, including Ma Huateng and Jack Ma in the business world. They are business stars. They were once regarded as idols for entrepreneurship, industry benchmarks, and wealth symbols by the younger generation.
Shi notes there could also be another reason behind the move, that the party is trying to eliminate all sources of power and influence in Chinese society, other than itself.
Chinese authorities are pressuring high school and college students to get vaccinated, even though Beijing says it's not required. But some students say they have issues with the situation. 2 of them took action after being forced to get the shot.
A college student posted a video clip online after getting a vaccine. He said he didn't want to be vaccinated, but the school forced him to do it. He threatened that he would retaliate against society if there were side effects.
不是我有神经病，而是我被强制打了疫苗，并且有了副作用，我才开始报复社会的。
Many netizens were worried about him, warning him not to kill innocent people. Some said if he had to retaliate, he should find the organizations and officials who had forced him to get vaccinated. A high school student from central China's Henan province also expressed anger after she was forced to get vaccinated, after the school said it wouldn't allow her to attend classes without a vaccination. On Friday, she declared online that she quit the Chinese Communist Party and its affiliated organizations. She published the statement on a website run by the Chinese language version of the Epoch Times. The student is one of the 380 million Chinese people who have renounced their support of the Chinese regime on that website. Most of them use a pseudonym to protect their identity and to keep themselves and their families in China safe. The student wrote that she doesn't want to get the vaccine because no one knows enough about the virus, but the CCP is coercing people to get vaccinated. She added the Chinese Communist Party is considering people lab rats. She said she admired people outside China who could demonstrate in the street to fight for their rights, and that admiration made her post and her statement quitting the CCP.
Forced labor, torture, murder, and suppression of religious freedom. That's everyday life in a Chinese jail. A prisoner of conscience gives us the real story of what he witnessed inside one.
One man is speaking out to tell his story. After being locked away in a Chinese prison, a prisoner of conscience, he's exposing the brutality he witnessed there, including slave labor, torture, and murder. He was imprisoned in a facility in Shenyang, a northern Chinese city, and told the media that what he described is commonplace inside. To protect his identity, we're keeping him anonymous. The man was originally sentenced for defamation over criticizing social injustices and China's communist leader online.
This time they said I committed. It's a long name. Defaming the country's chairman and leader, Comrade Xi Jinping. This is the first charge. The second is insulting the Chinese Communist Party. These were my 2 charges.
He was jailed in Shenyang's #1 prison for 3 years, observing a number of practices that are kept quiet from the outside. He told the media there are factories within the prison, which make hundreds of millions of Chinese yuan, or tens of millions of US dollars, every year.
Everyone must work in prison. We mainly made clothes in the prison I stayed in. The boss is Tianjin Detailed Fashion Limited. They export to the whole world.
He explained that prisoners work 13 hours a day and are paid almost nothing.
Wages, when I got there, it was 2018, and the highest pay was 40 yuan a month. That's for the best workers, 40 yuan. For those less skilled, they got 10 yuan, 20 yuan.
And if the prisoners fail to meet that day's work quota, they face punishment from prison guards. He said many of his fellow prisoners asked him to disclose the forced labor issue when he got out, because they know it's illegal in the international community. He also told the media that many people who practice Falun Gong, a spiritual meditation system persecuted by the regime, were imprisoned there.
There are at least 40-50 Falun Gong practitioners there. They are from all walks of life. Some are professors, some are teachers, some are intellectuals from institutions. The Falun Gong practitioners I know who got the heaviest sentence have 12 years.
He said these Falun Gong practitioners face constant pressure to abandon their faith.
This happens all the time, every year. Last year, during China's National Day, they put the practitioners in a room, closed all the curtains to block out the light, and gave them the worst food possible. There were electric batons everywhere. Some practitioners refused to give up their faith. Guards then sent them to the high alert zone and tortured them there for a month.
According to Falun Gong information website minghui.org, Shenyang City invested nearly $5 million to build its high alert zone, designed to persecute Falun Gong practitioners. Various torture methods are reportedly used there, and some prisoners are believed to have lost their lives.
I know a Falun Gong practitioner. His name was Yan Xuguan. He was sentenced to 12 years and still had 8 years left when I got released. Once he was tortured via electric baton a lot, he almost died. I heard he wrote a few words to other prisoners saying Falun Dafa is good. The police tortured him because of it.
He also mentioned the facility's high death rate.
If they want you to die at midnight, you cannot survive to dawn. It's cold in northeast, right? They will take off all your clothes and rinse you down with cold water. That's when you get sick. Then they throw you on a hard board and open the window, and the person will die very quickly. That happens often. Everyone in the prison knows it.
He added that videos released online showing guards saving prisoners during emergencies or calling ambulances for them are all fake.
International tourism in Hong Kong has been heavily restricted, leaving the industry with a smaller pool of domestic visitors. But new luxurious campsites are now benefiting. NTD's Andrew Thomas reports.
Hongkongers have to quarantine for up to 3 weeks when returning from another country, so most are deterred from traveling abroad. And glamping sites like WeCamp have become popular, attracting first-time campers.
It's actually a good opportunity for us to really try to explore Hong Kong a bit more. You know, if it wasn't for COVID, I wouldn't be looking at glamping options because, you know, I would probably be traveling outside.
Park Nature is another site. This camp's signature caravan is the Stargazer. Glamper Eddie So enjoys the serenity.
Our family can stay quietly and comfortably here at the glamping site. Also, the site here is not that big. There's only 11 caravans here based on my observation, so it's quieter, and there's much more privacy.
The founder of the glamping site says the comfort of this caravan is comparable to a hotel, and notes how the novelty of glamping is attracting tourists.
Hong Kong has a lot of skyscrapers and little countryside, making our industry rare. I think it will be very popular.
Hong Kong's tough international travel restrictions mean tourism hotspots are empty of foreign visitors. But that doesn't seem to be affecting glamping sites. With an occupancy rate currently above 90%, Choi is a happy businessman. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
And that's all for today's China in Focus. But before you go, we have a short announcement. We have our premiere at 9:30 p.m. on Monday to Saturday on TV and our YouTube channel. NTD is available on many platforms, including cable TV, satellite, and over-the-air TV across the U.S. And it continues to grow. Please check out ntd.com/TV. Type in your zip code to find all the ways you can watch our show. That's ntd.com/TV. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.